Hey guys, this is John. I'm long overdue for an update on the Master versus Mini game that I have going on over at chess.com against you guys and also chess.com members. So I'm going to make a couple videos bringing you guys up to speed because we're currently on move 31 in the game, and the last video I made brought you up to move 17. So there's about almost 15 moves we got to catch up on. And in this video, I'm going to show you 10 of those moves and also leave you in some suspense for next video. One thing I will do differently this video, I'm not going to move the pieces around showing you the various lines. I'm going to challenge you guys to approach this just like you would a tournament game. So trying to make the mental arrows and drawing the mental circles yourself without the benefit of being able to move the pieces to and fro. So we'll see how this goes for you guys. So just to refresh your memory, we left off with me playing c takes d5, capturing the pawn in the center. The many cannot take the rook on d4 because they would lose their queen on c7. So the many took with the knight. And I mentioned last time that my big fear was falling behind in development and suffering as a result. Because in this line, white has secured the two bishops, but it comes at the expense of development. My king is still in the center. Black's is safely tucked away on g8. I need to move my light square bishop and castle. And that was my goal over the next several moves. So I played rook c4 here. This was as predicted in the last video. I moved my rook attacking the queen. Also, since my knight on c3 is pinned, I thought this move would be helpful to remove that pin. The many replied with queen to d6. I captured on d5. The many took with the bishop, attacking my rook. And I put the rook on c3. Now here, the many played a move that I thought was very crafty. I give them credit for this move because I didn't really see it coming. And it took a second to understand the purpose of it. So they played bishop to b7. And at first sight, this looks like a passive move. But in fact, this will help further Black's slight initiative that they have. So the idea of bishop b7 is to try to get a rook to c8. They want to play rook ac8 or maybe even rook fc8, most likely rook ac8 though, and dispute the c-file. And probably try to trade my rook on c3 because that's clearly one of my most active pieces right now. Unlike knights, bishops usually don't need to be centralized to be effective. Knights typically have to be in the center or somewhere towards the center to be operating at their maximum capacity. But bishops aren't greatly affected because they're diagonal moving pieces, so they are quite effective even on fianchetto squares, for instance. They still have a sweeping diagonal to work with. And I think the many also just realized that this two-way move was going to help them out. You know, dropping the bishop back, it's not a target in the center anymore, and enables them to play rook c8. So good multi-purpose move there. Now here, I still want to develop my bishop. I had to think at this point where to put that bishop. We've got three available squares, e2, d3, and c4. Of course, we can't go to b5 or take the pawn on a6. So the struggle was to figure out which one of those moves to play. I think another move I looked at very briefly here was rook to d3, attacking the queen, but I dismissed it when I saw that they could reply with queen to g6, which would, again, introduce a pin. My rook on d3 would be pinned, the queen behind. So when I first saw this position, I thought bishop e2 or bishop d3 would be the most normal. When I played this line in the past, that's usually where the light square bishop ends up. But then I started staring at this f7 pawn, and it occurred to me that if the many is going to play a rook to c8, very likely we're going to have a trade on c3. Like they're going to take with one of their rooks, I'll take back with my queen, and then they'll try to bring the other rook over to dispute the file and get it for themselves. And I thought by playing bishop c4 and having this bishop trained at the pawn on f7, this could give me some counterplay when that does take place. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. So also there was a couple downsides, like bishop d3. I didn't like the fact that Black could play knight c5, harassing the bishop. Bishop e2 seemed a bit passive maybe. I don't know if I felt there was anything completely wrong with that move, but it felt passive. I thought they would just continue rook c8. So I wanted to create some mini crisis for Black on the f7 square, however slight that may be. So after bishop c4, the many did play b5, attacking the bishop. I retreated the bishop to a2, so keeping it on the diagonal, pointed at f7. I did not go to b3 because I had already envisioned I want my queen on that square in the future. Also, by virtue of playing bishop a2, I may be able to play bishop b1 somewhere and threaten to mate on h7. So the many played rook ac8. I castled. Oftentimes when you're battling for control of a file, you do not want to be the one who initiates the trade on that file, because by doing so, you're going to lose the file. So if I were to play rook takes c8 here, you'll imagine that the many replies with rook takes c8, and I would have to move the queen and give up control of the file. Granted, I might be able to play queen b3, but I think it's better to let them come to me and play a useful move for now. If I go rook takes c8, queen b3, my king is still in the center. We know I have to get castled, so let's just do it now. And trades are time consuming. Trades always cost you time. So rook takes c3 was a move I wasn't completely unhappy to see. It was expected. So the many played that. I took with the queen, and they did play rook c8. And here's where I try to win some time back by playing queen b3, attacking the aforementioned pawn on f7. And here the many played queen e7, retreating and defending the pawn. So at this point, in one sense, it's mission accomplished for white because I did get developed and castled, but I wasn't sure if I had an advantage because even though I have the bishops, there's still some question marks. For instance, I don't think my pawn structure is particularly good. Pawns on e3, f3. In the future, black may look to play e4. That's one move I was trying to be heads up about. In games that I played previously in this line, if black gets in e4, they can kind of cripple this mini structure, e3, f3. You can imagine if e4 and I had to play f4, that would greatly shut in my bishop here. So for that reason, I decided to play e4 right now. I'm not too sure if this is the best move or not, but it felt right. It also restricts black's light square bishop. It's now staring at a chain of pawns, e4, f3, g2. Anytime you can establish at least two connected pawns on the same diagonal as one of your opponent's bishops, its influence will be greatly diminished. So after e4, the many played knight c5, attacking my queen. And I decided to go queen b4. I thought a bit about queen to e3, so moving the queen over, maybe having more options from the center. But I was a bit worried that on queen e3, the many would play knight a4, attacking this pawn on b2. So with queen b4, I was setting up a pin. This seems to be the theme of the game so far, creating pins. This knight cannot move because they would lose the queen on e7. So here the many played queen d8. And this is the move I'm going to leave you guys off on because I found this move to be intriguing. And at first sight, it just looks like a blunder because queen d8 does get out of the pin, but it loses sight of that pawn on e5. So at this point, I had to think, what is the many up to? And can I take the pawn on e5? So I'm not going to tell you guys the answer to that. Feel free to analyze it on your own if you like, and I'll reveal my thought process next time. So most of these moves were pretty standard. I think both sides can be fairly happy with what happened. Black didn't experience any big problems in the opening. And in fact, they were making me solve some issues, like with this bishop b7 move, trying to get a rook to c8. For my part, I think I did well to complete my development in castle. I'm happy with this bishop c4 move. It's possible the computer will later say, when I go back and look at this, once the game's over, that bishop e2 or something was better. But you got to create your opponent problems, even in the opening. And bishop c4 attacking f7 seemed like the way to do it. I also was happy with this queen b4 move. I think this move slows black down. And even though it does set up some coming play, if black plays queen d8 as they did, I think it was the right call. I think queen e3, knight a4 was giving black some counterplay. Maybe black could even try to use the d4 square if I play queen e3. I was a bit worried about knight e6 to d4 at some stage. Actually, if queen e3, knight e6, I could play bishop takes e5. Maybe I should have gone queen e3. I don't know. We'll find out after the game is over. So anyways, I will leave it there and expect another video from me very soon talking about the coming play. You can still join this game, by the way. The link to the game is in the description. No engines. You cannot use engines if you're submitting your move for the many. And I wish you guys luck if you do join. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll be back again soon with another video. Bye, guys.